What's up, vinyl community? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another miscellaneous vinyl update. Let's just jump in. This is stuff that I've picked up probably over the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. There's some stuff here I've had for quite some time. So, first up, this is one I did pick up 5 or 6 months ago. This is just some killer 70s prog, a band that I just run across for the first time about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. But this is Magic as a Child from Nectar. I've really been digging on this band, and this is a great album. There is some of their stuff from the late 70s. This is 77. I think they had an album from about 78 or 79 that I wasn't really feeling, but everything prior to that I've really dug. But I've given this one a couple of spins, and I was really into it. I actually might listen to this one again when we're done here, because I think it's been about 2 months since I last checked it out, but I do remember really digging it. This was a cool find too. I've been working on finding this band's early stuff from the 70s when they were more of a prog band than the hard rock that they would be known for in the late 70s and into the 80s. This is The Whole World's Going Crazy by April Wine, and I believe this is a US pressing. Yeah, this one's US, and it's got the promo sticker there. I can't remember if it's a white label promo or not though. Nah, it just looks like it's a radio promo. This is on the London label here in the US. And, you know, the more I hear from this band's early stuff, the more I like them. Once they got into the 80s, the mid-80s, I kind of lost interest in their stuff. But their late 70s hard rock and the prog stuff, the prog stuff I've heard from the early to mid-70s, I've really dug. This is from 76. Next up, I don't remember where I ran across this at. It takes about half a day to get there if you... and in the background, if you don't know what you're listening to, I might be shocked, but this is probably my all-time favorite album. This is Axis Bold as Love from Jimi Hendrix. This is a Japanese mini LP that I've had for, I don't know, maybe a year or two. Amazing sounding CD though. Anyway, I ran across this. This was steel sealed. This is from Rhino Records back in the 80s. They did this in conjunction with Sun Records, but this is the Sun story. And you've got a little bit from everybody on the Sun label here. You've got Elvis, Carl Perkins, Junior Parker, Johnny Cash, Roy Orbison, Jerry Lee Lewis, Charlie Rich. Man, it just goes on. Sonny Burgess, The Prisonaires. Some stuff I had never heard of before, but really good 2 LP comp, and it was sealed. This is from the mid 80s, I want to say. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it was 86 or 87. Really good comp though. If you run across this in good condition, I would go ahead and grab it. And the main reason I like this is a lot of this stuff was you're not going to run across unless you find one of these comps or you find the original 45s. Next up, this is an album I've been looking for a while. I've had it on CD since I was a kid. But finding it on a clean copy on vinyl has been really difficult. So I'm glad to finally have this in the collection. This is Tejas from ZZ Top. And I'm really just trying to round out my collection. There's still 1 or 2 albums from them I'm looking for. And this one, because of the matte finish, you can see kind of the dirt right there, but you always find it in really rough condition. So I was really happy to finally find a copy in nice condition. And then speaking of ZZ Top, this was a recent pickup. This is done on Back on Black, I believe. Yeah, Back on Black Rock Classics. And this is great. This is live from Texas. And I can't remember when it was from. It's a recent concert, though. Let's see if it says. I want to say it's within the last 5 or 6 years. So it looked like it was 2008, 2007 or 2008. But really digging this. It's on clear blue vinyl. It's 2 LP. The band sounds killer, especially the music. I mean, their voices aren't as good as they were back in the 70s and 80s, you know. You can definitely hear the aging in their voices. But I don't think it takes away from the show at all. They still sound amazing as a band. And this is one I would definitely recommend picking up if you're a ZZ Top fan. Next up, the newest album from Tiger Army. Excuse me, my nose is... I've been sick the last couple days and my allergies are killing me, so I apologize if I keep messing with my nose. This is Tiger Army. This is their 5th album. I'm a real big fan of Tiger Army since they first came out. This was a pre-order only pressing. It's on this really cool... It's supposed to be black and blue. You can see the black only shows up on the edges. It still looks kind of cool though. Really good album though. It's kind of a mix of prior Tiger Army albums and Nick 13, who is basically the sole writer and the sole member that's been there since day one of Tiger Army. But he's got a really good alt-country sound on the Nick 13 album, mixed with the psychobilly sound of the earlier Tiger Army albums, and that's what you get with this one. And really digging this. I actually picked up a copy of this on CD as well to keep in the car, and I've been spinning this quite a bit. Unfortunately, I missed their live show here, but I've seen them live, and he just puts on a killer show. Next up, just picking up some more Bee Gees. I've talked about them before. They're one of my guilty pleasures, especially the stuff from the early 70s. This is Horizontal. This one is late 60s, I believe. I don't see a date on it. But I found a real nice copy. This is another one that I don't see in good condition that often. It doesn't have a date on it. I can't remember when this one came out. It's on the Atco label though, and I found it for $3 or $4. I wasn't gonna pass up on it. It's not one of my favorite albums from theirs, but there's still a couple of good tracks on it. Let's see if I can get this in there. Next up, a little bit of Genesis. Another band. I'm just trying to finish up the collection. I'm still missing a couple of their 70s albums. But I was missing most of the stuff with Peter Gabriel on it, so I've really been looking for that. And again, I mean, whenever you run across these, they're just so well played. They're just beat up. So it's been hard to find nice pressings. This is on Charisma. This is Foxtrot. And I also picked up Nursery Crimes. Again on Charisma. And I love the artwork on these 2 albums. And then on the Mad Hatter Charisma label. That's still one of my all-time favorite labels. I've always loved that label. And I found these in really nice condition. I paid under $10 a piece for them, so I was really happy to finally run across these and add them to the collection. Next up is a live album that I didn't even know existed. I actually thought this was a bootleg. As of late, a lot of live bootlegs have been popping up, and that's what I thought this was. But it was like $8, and I wasn't going to pass up on it. This is live at the Hollywood Bowl. This is The Doors. And again, I didn't know that this existed. This is actually released in the 80s on Elektra. 87. But you've got Wake Up, Light My Fire, Unknown Soldier, A Little Game, The Hill Dwellers, and Spanish Caravan. Pretty cool live set from, does it say? Celebration of the Lizard, July 5th, 1968. And like I said, I picked that up for under $10, and it's mint. It was still in the shrink, And I mean, there's not a mark on it. Next up, a little bit of neo-folk. It's Sufjan Stevens. I'm not really feeling this one. Like, I really liked his last couple albums. This is All Delighted People EP. It's alright. There's a couple songs on here I dug, but it's so-so. Next up is a little bit of Sunny Day Real Estate Diary. I'm pretty sure I've talked about them before. I'm not really into emo and the whole emo scene from the late 80s and early 90s, but this is one album that I really dug, and this is generally considered to be one of the best emo albums of all time. And it really is a great album. I'm glad to finally have this on vinyl. I've had CDs of this since the late 80s, or the early 90s. I can't remember when this one came out. But since shortly after it came out, I've had a copy of this. And I've always loved that album art. It just takes me back to being a kid playing with those. I can't remember what those little things were called. Little People. Was it little? It may have been Little People. Next up, just a great album. Another one. I'm trying to find all of his albums. I've got all the Bob Seger System albums. I've got pretty much all but the last couple Silver Bullet albums. I'm just trying to get the last few of the Bob Seger albums. And this is Beautiful Loser. Now, he was with Silver Bullet Band by this point, or Silver Bullet Band was his band at this point. And they did play on a couple of tracks on this. But this is mostly the Muscle Shoals lineup. You've got the Muscle Shoals rhythm section and the horn section that appear on this album. And, I mean, just some classic songs. You got Beautiful Loser, Catmandu, Traveling Man, Nutbush City Limits. He does a really nice version of that. Sailing Nights. I mean, this one's just full of hits. And, again, it's been hard to find this in good condition. I've run across copies. I run across copies all the time, honestly, at thrift stores and antique malls, but they're just always beat up. So it was nice to finally find a really nice copy. This next one I'm really happy to finally have. I heard a lot of hype about this as it was being recorded, as singles were being released, and I purposely didn't listen to any of them because I wanted to hear the album. But man, this album kicks ass. If you like 70s boogie, if you like 70s blues rock, if you like 70s hard rock, you're going to love this album. It's one of the biggest bands from the 70s. This is the newest from Foghat. This is Under the Influence. This album holds its own with any of their 70s albums. It's awesome from beginning to end. I've given this 3 or 4 spins, and I can't get enough of how good this is. They also do a remake of Slow Ride, which I could live with or without. It's not bad, but I would rather listen to the original. But the entire album's awesome, and this is one I highly recommend picking up if you're a Foghat fan, or if you're just a fan of 70s blues rock or hard rock. You can see this one's signed by the entire band. This was part of a Pledge Music campaign that they had. They crowdfunded this album. Killer album, though. I look forward to seeing them live. I've heard that their live show the last couple of years has been absolutely amazing, so I really want to check that out. Next up, this was my final month of Vinyl Me Please. They did a good job here and there of putting out amazing albums, but for every killer album that they put out, there's 2 months of so-so albums that I could live without. So I didn't stick with it. I actually would have stopped after the first 3 months, but I forgot to stop my subscription, so I ended up getting it for 6 months. But this is maybe the release from maybe 2 months ago. This is Odelay from Beck. Nice to finally have this on vinyl. I hated this album when it first came out. I thought it was the stupidest thing. Devil's Haircut, and can't remember what the other song that was all over. There were 3 or 4 songs off of here, but there were 2 that were all over MTV. Devil's Haircut was one of them. And I was DJing in the clubs in Japan when this first came out. And I constantly got requests for it, so I had to go out and buy it. and over time spinning it for probably a good 3 years before the popularity of it kind of died out and something else took its place. It kind of grew on me, and now I really dig this album, and just Beck in general. Basically, it was forced into me through repetition, but I'm really, like I said, I'm really happy to have this on vinyl finally. And this one they did on, I think they call it like champagne or burgundy vinyl. It's like a reddish brown with black in it. Really nice pressing though, sounds really good. Next up, this is a band I just I remember seeing the band as long as I've been listening to music, especially their debut, the album cover from their debut. And I finally picked up a copy of it about a year or two ago and really dug it. So anytime I see their albums now, I grab it. So I went ahead and grabbed this one, and this is not what I was expecting. This is Drastic Plastic from Bebop Deluxe. And this is a really interesting album. So Bebop Deluxe was more of a guitar-driven glam band for their first few albums, and I really dug them. And with this album, they completely changed up their sound. This was 78, I think, so it's kind of ahead of its time. Yeah, 78 when this came out. And this is almost the type of electro pop that you would hear from Devo in the early 80s. And you can kind of see it even with the imagery on the back there. But it's very avant-garde, especially for the late 70s. But, and when I first put it on, I was like, man, this sucks. What did they do? And by the end of side A, I was kind of getting into it. And after listening to the whole album, I really ended up liking it. So I'm going to hold on to it and give it a few more spins and see if it grows on me a little more. But it's definitely an interesting listen. And again, it's definitely ahead of its time. There weren't a whole lot of bands. I mean, this was definitely popular and more a sound for the early 80s than for 78. So definitely worth checking out, though, especially if you're into that. It's kind of got post-punk elements to it. Definitely has that electro pop or synth pop of the early 80s. Pretty cool album, though. Definitely worth checking out if you're into that. Next up, another one that I've been looking for this album forever, and every time I find it, it's trashed. And not only did I find a copy, I found an original UK pressing, which made it that much better. This song may have been their biggest hit. I may be wrong on this, but every one of these songs was huge radio hits. This is Electric Light Orchestra, Face the Music. And it's a great album. A couple of the songs I've just heard too, especially Strange Magic. I could completely live without that song. I've heard it so many times over the years. But the rest of the album is really good. You've got Poker, Down Hometown, One Summer Dream, Evil Woman, Night Rider, Waterfall. I mean, it's just a killer album. And like I said, I don't know that this was their biggest hit, but it's got to be right there. But I mean, like I said, I found an original UK pressing. It's in mint condition, so I'm really happy to have that. And then the last two I picked up about 5 months apart. This is a band that early on I didn't really like. I got into punk probably, I don't know, late 80s. Maybe it was the early 90s. Somebody turned me on to the Dead Kennedys and the Damned. And then towards the mid 93, 94, when I started reaching adulthood, I had some friends that were crust punks. They had done the Squatting on Hollywood Boulevard for like 2 years, that whole thing. And they kind of got me into bands like Crass and you know, just a lot of the early hardcore bands. And this is a band that I just couldn't get into, which is funny because I've always liked Henry Rollins. You know, I've always been a fan of his spoken word. I like his music from the Rollins Band, but I've never been able to get into his Black Flag stuff. But it's slowly starting to grow on me. But I recently found this for $6, and I couldn't believe I found it for so cheap. But this is an early pressing of In My Head. Now, as I've dug more and more into Black Flag, I've gotten into the earlier stuff. With Keith Morris on vocals and with Chavo on vocals. And man, I really dig this stuff. As much as I like Henry Rollins, I prefer the earlier stuff with Keith Moon and Chavo to his. And this is the first 4 years. Again, I picked this up for like $8, and I picked them up like six or 7 months apart from each other in completely different stores. But man, I just love this early Black Flag stuff. And I'll honestly take this over the Henry Rollins stuff any day of the week. But I've really been digging this. And I knew most of these songs. Nervous Breakdown, I've got the single for. Jealous Again, White Minority. Six Pack. American Waste. Louie Louie, Damaged. I mean, this is stuff that I do remember from back in the early 90s, hanging out with those. Sorry about that, guys. I'm recording this from my phone, and I got a phone call. So that was it, though. The Black Flag albums were the last couple that I was going to show in this update. I'll have a couple more updates coming pretty soon. I got another country update coming up, and then a few more metal updates. And I've got a bunch of stuff to show for what's spinning. And like I said in my last, or maybe a couple videos ago, I'm just way behind. I've kind of been out of the whole making videos thing for a while. So I'm just kind of trying to get back into it. Let me know if there's anything you guys want to see, if there's anything from the collection you'd like to see, so we can maybe mix it up. I am going to do a coroner video for all you thrash and metal fans out there. I'm going to cover their whole discography. And if you guys want to see some more stuff like that, definitely let me know. But that's it, VC. Take care, and I'll see you soon.